Blackfish, a presentation by Jessica Haynes, Ashley Thompson, Megan Overby, and Brooke Menzer. The director was a woman named Gabriella Cowperthwaite. She produced, directed, and wrote for almost 12 years, and she has written a variety of real-life stories. She also wrote and produced for ESPN, National Geographic, Animal Planet, Discovery, and History Channel. In 2009, Gabriella also completed a medical film for UCLA International Medicine in conjunction with the International Rescue Committee, teaching doctors in Darfur, Sierra Leone, Thailand, and Pakistan, which was a clinical management of assault. She also won the BAFTA Award for Best Documentary for this film, formerly known as the Robert Flahanther Award for each year. The British Academy of Film and Television Arts is a British organization that hosts annual award shows for film, television, children's film, and interactive media. The 2013 Sundance Film Festival took place from January 17, 2013 until January 27, 2013 in Park City, Utah, where Gabriella showed the screening of Blackfish for the first time. People seemed to immediately love it. Because of the positive feedback that was very noticeable, the film was then picked up by Magnolia Pictures and CNN Films for wider release. She also had a personal quote about this film after its release. It stated, "In the summer of 2010, Dawn Bradshaw, a renowned SeaWorld trainer, was killed by a tilikum, a 12,000-pound orca. I remember fragments, something about a ponytail, something about her slipping and falling, something about how this almost never happens because in these parks, these animals are happy and the trainers are safe. But something wasn't right. Why would a highly intelligent animal attack its trainer, and in fact, bite the hand that feeds it? I set out to understand this incident not as an activist, but as a mother who had just taken her kids to SeaWorld, and as a documentary filmmaker who can't let the sleeping dogs lie." SeaWorld parks. There are 3 different SeaWorld parks in the United States and are a marine mammal park. There is one in San Antonio, Texas, San Diego, California, and Orlando, Florida. They also have created 6 other types of aquatic and entertainment parks with different names in 9 other locations, 3 of which have the name Aquatica, which is the water park attached to all 3 SeaWorld locations. Some of the animals that are presented at these parks are sea lions, dolphins, killer whales, and many more. The parks were owned by Busch Entertainment Corporation, the family entertainment division of Anheuser-Busch, which is best known for brewing beer. In 2009, Busch Entertainment was sold to the Blackstone Group and subsequently renamed SeaWorld Entertainment. In 2015, SeaWorld Orlando hosted an estimated 4.7 million guests, ranking it the 10th most visited amusement park in the United States and the 22nd worldwide, which can be seen as very impressive while being in competition with other very popular theme parks such as Six Flags. This documentary has led to decreases in attendance, profits, and the company's share price. Orlando Business Journal posted a poll asking if Blackfish had changed readers' opinions on SeaWorld. The majority of votes stated that the film had not. It was later found that 180 out of 325 votes, which was 55%, originated from a single SeaWorld hosted IP address. SeaWorld later defended the voting, stating that each of the votes that came from a SeaWorld domain were cast by team members who were passionate about the incredible work SeaWorld does and the experiences that our parks provide.
Captivity of whales. In 1970, in the Bay of Puget Sound, a group of men were hired to capture whales for the theme park for the first time. It was known to the divers to be very exciting, and they were happy. How about the amazing and wonderful place of attraction? In the following clip from this film, you will see just how the orcas were captured and the reaction of one of the divers participating, John Crow.
The situation with Dawn Bradshaw, it didn't just happen. It's not a singular event. You have to go back over 20 years to understand this.
It was a really exciting thing to do, and so everybody wanted to do it. were they telling you were going to do?
Capture orcas.
They had aircraft, they had spotters, they had speedboats, they had bombs they were throwing in the water. They were lighting their bombs with acetylene torches in their boats and throwing them as fast as they could to herd the whales into coves. But the orcas had been caught before, and they knew what was going on, and they knew their young ones would be taken from them. So the adults without young went east into a cul-de-sac, and the boats followed them, thinking they were all going that way, while the mothers with babies went north. But the capture teams had aircraft, and they have to come up for air eventually, and when they did, the capture teams alerted the boats and said, oh no, they're going north, the ones with babies. So the boats, the speedboats, caught them there and herded them in. And then they had fishing boats with seine nets that they would stretch across so none could leave, and then they could just pick out the young ones.
We are only after the little ones. And the little one is, you know, a big animal still, but I was told because of shipping costs, that's why they only take the little ones.
They had the young ones that they wanted in the corrals, so they dropped the seine nets, and all the others could have left, but they stayed.
We're there trying to get the young orca in the stretcher, and the whole family is out here 25 yards away maybe in a big line, and they're communicating back and forth. Well, you understand then what you're doing, you know. I lost it. I mean, I started crying. I didn't stop working, but I, you know, just couldn't handle it. And just like kidnapping a little kid away from her mother. Everybody's watching. What can you do? It's the worst thing I can think of. You know, I can't think of anything worse than that. Now, this really sounds bad, but when the whole hunt was over, there were 3 dead whales in the net. And so they had Peter and Brian and I cut the whales open, fill them with rocks, put anchors on their tail, and sink them. Well, really, I didn't even think about it being illegal at that point. I thought it was a PR thing.
They were finally ejected from the state of Washington by a court order in 1976. It was SeaWorld by name that was told, do not come back to Washington to capture whales. Without missing a beat, they went from Washington to Iceland and began capturing there.
I've been part of a revolution to change of presidents in Central and South America, and seen some things that it's hard to believe, but this is the worst thing that I've ever done, is hunt that whale.
Tilikum. He was captured in Iceland in 1983 near Reykjavik. About a year later, he was transferred to Sealand of the Pacific in Victoria, British Columbia. He was subsequently transferred in 1992 to SeaWorld, Orlando, Florida. Tilikum was moved to SeaWorld, Orlando, Florida on January 9, 1992. Sealand of the Pacific closed soon afterward. Tilikum had 21 offspring in captivity, 11 of which were alive as of November 2013. While at the Sealand of the Pacific, Tilikum sired his first calf when he was about 8 or 9 years old. His first son, Q-Quat, was born to Haida II on December 24, 1991. Just a few months prior to the birth of Kayuquat, Tilikum was involved in the first incident involving a death. SeaWorld requested an emergency transfer of Tilikum to their facility. Tilikum was moved to SeaWorld Orlando, Florida on January 9, 1992. Sealand of the Pacific closed afterwards. Following his arrival at SeaWorld, Tilikum sired many calves with many different females. His first calf, born in Orlando, was to Katina. Katina gave birth to Taku on September 9, 1993. Taku died October 17, 2007. Among Tilikum's other calves are Nayar, born 1993, died 1996. Una, 1996 to 2015. Sumar, 1998 to 2010. Tuar, 1999. Tekoa, born in 2000. Nakai, born in 2001. Koana, born in 2002. Ikiaika, born in 2002. Skyla, born in 2004. Malia, born in 2007. Sakari, born in 2010, and Makayo, born in 2010. In 1999, Tilikum began training for artificial insemination, AI. In early 2000, Kasataka, who resides at SeaWorld San Diego, was artificially inseminated using his sperm. She gave birth to Tilikum's son, Nakai, on September 1, 2001. On May 3rd of 2002, another female in San Diego named Takara bore Tilikum's calf through artificial insemination. Tilikum was also the first successful surviving grandfather orca in captivity with the births of Trua, 2005, Nalani, 2006, Adayan, 2010, and Victoria, who was born in 2012 and died shortly in 2013.
Kelty Byrne. She was a trainer at Sealand who was the first victim to have been killed by Tilikum. On February 20th of 1991, Kelty Byrne, a 21-year-old marine biology student and competitive swimmer, slipped into the pool containing Tilikum, Haida II, and Nootka IV, while working a part-time Sealand of the Pacific trainer. The three orcas submerged her, dragged her around the pool, and preventing her from surfacing at one point, she reached the side and tried to climb out, but as horrified visitors watched from the sidelines, the orcas pulled her screaming back into the pool. Other trainers responded to her screams, throwing her in a life ring, but the orcas kept her away from it. She surfaced 3 times screaming before drowning, and it was several hours before her body could be recovered from the pool. Daniel P. Dukes was the second victim to be killed by Tilikum. He broke into SeaWorld and was found dead the next morning. On July 6th of 1999, a 27-year-old man named Daniel P. Dukes was found dead over Tilikum's back. Dukes had visited SeaWorld the previous day, stayed after the park closed, and evaded security to enter the orca tank unclothed. An autopsy found numerous wounds, contusions, and abrasions covering his body that were caused by Tilikum. The autopsy concluded that Dukes' cause of death was drowning. The medical examiner report said that no drugs or alcohol were found in Dukes' system. Tilikum then reportedly thrashed Dukes around in the tank and eventually killed him. The whale continued to play around with Dukes' body until the following morning when Tilly was found parading Dukes' lifeless body on his back. The whale had reportedly bitten off Dukes' genitals, caused so many injuries that autopsy reporters were dumbfounded as to what the actual cause of death was, and left his face in such bad condition that his funeral had to be closed casketed. Don Brancheau was the final Tilikum victim. On February 24th of 2010, Brancheau performed a Dine with Shamu show with Tilikum, the largest orca at SeaWorld Orlando. In this setting, guests ate at an open-air restaurant while watching the performance poolside as the orca was exercised and fed as part of the end-of-the-show routine. She was at the edge of the pool rubbing Tilikum's head. She was lying with her face next to Tilikum's on a slide-out, which is a platform submerged about a foot into the water. Some sources stated that she was pulled into the water by her ponytail, while others stated that she was pulled into the water by her arm. Witnesses' reports from spectators at the Dine with Shamu show say that Tilikum grabbed Dawn's arm as she lay in the slide-out area side by side with Tilikum. In any event, the orca's move seems to have been very quickly, pulling her underwater and drowning her. At least a dozen patrons witnessed Brancho in the water with Tilikum. Employees used nets and threw food at Tilikum in an attempt to distract him. Moving from pool to pool in the complex, they eventually directed Tilikum to a smaller medical pool where it would be easier to calm him. The orca subsequently released Brancho's body. The autopsy report stated that Brancho died from drowning and blunt force trauma. Her spinal cord was severed, and she had sustained fractures to her jawbone, ribs, and cervical vertebrae. Her scalp was completely torn off of her head. Her left arm had been ripped off near the shoulder, and her left elbow and left knee had been dislocated. In the following film, you will see reactions of other trainers to Dawn's death.
At some point, grabbed a hold of her left forearm and started to drag her, and eventually did a barrel roll and pulled her in. May have started as play or frustration, and clearly escalated to be, very violent behavior that I think was anything but play. In the end, he basically just completely mutilated that poor girl.
They were gathering all the trainers at the Texas park. He said there's been an accident at the Florida park and a trainer was killed. Hearing that it was Dawn, I couldn't believe it. I just remember saying to myself, not Dawn, it can't be Dawn. He said that, and he still has her. And I just was so disturbed by that and the reality of how powerless we are.
Avulsion, laceration, abrasion, fractures and associated hemorrhages, blunt force traumas to the main body, to the extremities. To see this meted out against a trainer, and I cannot fathom the reason. It's shocking. The lawyer for OSHA asked me what I thought we'd learned, and I'm sitting in the courtroom and I've got the Kelty Byrne case file in one hand, and I've got Dawn Brancho in the other, and they're almost to the day 20 years apart, and I'm looking at these two things. My only answer is nothing. In fact, it's not a damn thing. We have not learned a damn thing for something like that to happen 20 years apart.
Filmmaker's purpose. Gabriella Cowperthwaite, the filmmaker, strives to inform the viewer of the tragic events that occurred when Tilikum, a killer whale trapped in captivity by the aquatic amusement parks, was responsible for the 3 deaths of people, which were 2 trainers and Daniel Dukes. The filmmaker strives to inform the viewer of the danger to both humans and killer whales when whales are kept in captivity. Some arguments and claims as well as assertions. The argument made in Blackfish is that killer whales should not be kept in captivity for 2 reasons: the well-being of the killer whales as well as the safety of the humans around them. Validity. As we've mentioned before, the argument of this film is that keeping wild animals in captivity is not only dangerous for the whales, but dangerous for the trainers as well. This claim is very valid, and the film gives many examples on just how dangerous it truly is. Here is our evidence of the validity of our documentary film, Blackfish.
Die young. They like to say that all orcas die at 25 or 30 years.
25 to 35 years.
25 to 35 years.
They're documented in the wild, living to be about 35 and mid-30s. They tend to live a lot longer in this environment because they have all the veterinary care.
And of course, that's false. We knew by 1980, after half a dozen years of the research, that they live equivalent to human lifespans. And every other potentially embarrassing fact is twisted and turned and denied one way or another.
So in the wild, they live less. And then...
Like the floppy dorsal fins.
25% of whales have a fin that turns over like that as they get older.
Dorsal collapse happens in less than 1% of wild killer whales. We know this. All of the captive males, 100%, have collapsed dorsal fins.
And they say that they're a family, that the whales are in their family. They have their pods, but that's just, an artificial assemblage of their collection, however management decides they should mix them, and whichever ones happen to be born or bought and brought in. That's not a family, come on.
You've got animals from different cultural subsets that have been brought in from various parks. These are different nations. These aren't just two different killer whales. These animals, they've got different genes. They use different languages.
Well, what could happen as a result of them being thrown in with other whales that they haven't grown up with, that are not part of their culture, is there's hyperaggression, a lot of violence, a lot of killing in captivity that you don't ever see in the wild.
For the health and safety of the animals, please do not put your hands in the water.
It was always sort of this backdrop, this underpinning of tension between animals. Whale-on-whale aggression was just part of the daily existence.
We ask that you use the stairs and aisleways as you exit. Please do not step on the seats. These areas may become wet and therefore slippery to some footwear. Thank you.
In the wild, when there's tension, they've got thousands of square miles to exit the scene and they can get away. You don't have that in captivity.
Could you imagine being in a small concrete enclosure for your life when you're used to swimming 100 miles a day?
Sometimes this aggression became very severe, and in fact, whales have died in captivity because of this aggression.
I think it was 1988, Candu trying to assert her dominance over Corky, rammed Corky. It fractured her jaw, which cut an artery in her head, and then she bled out. That's got to be a hard way to go down.
I saw that there was just a lot of things that weren't right, and there was a lot of misinformation, and something was amiss. And I sort of compartmentalized that part of it and did the best that I could with the knowledge that I had to take care of the animals that were there. And I think all the trainers there have the same thing in their heart. They're trying to make a difference in the lives of the animals. You think that if I leave, who's going to take care of Tillicum? And that's why I stayed. I feel sorry for Tillicum. I mean, if you want to get down to the nuts and bolts of it, I stayed because I feel sorry for Tillicum. And I couldn't bring myself to stop coming and trying to take care of him.
Attitude and tone of the director. The negative attitude and tone of the director in Blackfish gives the viewer a feeling of empathy towards the killer whales, as well as a feeling of shame and guilt for supporting a business that holds killer whales such as Tillicum in captivity. Cinematic techniques. Gabriella Cowperthwaite uses time-lapse comparisons to exemplify SeaWorld's lack of change prior to past events. The director uniquely only does one-on-one interviews. Throughout the documentary, the director continuously shows the viewer past clips of the killer whales from their performances, while also going back to the time of the trainer attacks that were caught on video. The 911 call in the beginning of Blackfish allows the viewer to visualize their own concept of what happened and how people felt at the time of the attack. The following clip is the 911 call from the documentary.
Orange County Fire Rescue.
6600 Sea Harbor Drive. SeaWorld Stadium.
Okay.
We actually have a trainer in the water with one of our whales. The whale that they're not supposed to be in the water with.
Okay. We'll get somebody en route.
Okay, and through gate number 3 to Shamu Stadium.
Gate 3.
For a dead person at SeaWorld, a whale has eaten one of the trainers.
a whale ate one of the trainers?
That's correct.
Structure. The film uses chronological order of events and problems that Telecom causes. The structure of Blackfish is set up at the beginning with a negative tone for the documentary. Although the director includes facts and statistics about killer whales to validate the argument in Blackfish, the uses of actual footage from SeaWorld contributed to the most in achieving the film's purpose.